She's drawn to him. She doesn't fully understand why, but something about his presence makes her feel a way that men her own age never have. And before she lets herself go any further, she's going to ask him two very specific questions. What happens next will determine everything. Let's talk about why it's never really about age and always about maturity. When a woman says she's drawn to an older man, what she's actually describing is a feeling of being around someone who is settled, someone who doesn't react to everything, someone who has been through enough of life to stop being rattled by the small stuff. That feeling has nothing to do with a number on a birth certificate. It has everything to do with how a man carries himself. There are men in their 40s who are still emotionally all over the place, still seeking validation, still performing for the room. And there are men who figured themselves out early and carry a quiet steadiness that most people never develop at any age. She's drawn to the steadiness. She's drawn to the depth. Age is just where she learned to look for it. Maturity is what she's actually trying to find. Let's talk about why women test without even realizing they're doing it. It's not a strategy. It's not something she sat down and planned out. It comes from somewhere much more instinctive than that. It comes from experience. From moments in her past where someone seemed solid and turned out not to be, where she trusted too quickly and paid for it. So her emotional system learned to check. Before she lets herself go all in, something inside her needs to verify that what she's seeing is real. The test isn't about being difficult, it's about being careful. And there's a big difference between those two things. She doesn't even always know she's doing it. The question just comes out. The moment just happens. And she finds herself watching how he responds, not necessarily with her mind, but with that quiet gut feeling that has protected her more than once before. Let's talk about the two questions and what they're actually designed to uncover. On the surface, they sound like simple conversation, but underneath each one is a very specific thing she needs to know before she allows herself to go any deeper. The first question measures emotional security. She needs to know that he's not going to fall apart when things get uncomfortable, that he can sit with a hard question and respond from a place of calm rather than anxiety or defensiveness. The second question measures his intentions. She needs to know that he sees her clearly, that he's not projecting something onto her or telling her what she wants to hear just to keep things moving in his favor. These two things, security and honesty, are exactly what she came to an older man looking for. The questions are just her way of checking whether what she sensed from the beginning is actually there beneath the surface. Let's talk about why how he answers matters so much more than what he actually says. Words are easy. Anyone can put together a decent answer if they think about it long enough. But energy is something completely different. Energy is what's happening underneath the words. And she's not really listening to the words. She's feeling the energy. When the question lands, does he shift uncomfortably? Does he suddenly start over-explaining himself? Does his whole demeanor change in a way that tells her this question got to him? Or does he stay exactly the same? Same tone, same presence, same calm. That steadiness, that ability to receive a loaded question without it visibly moving him, is what she's actually measuring. It tells her that his confidence isn't situational, that it doesn't disappear the moment something feels uncertain. She can find a man with good answers anywhere. What she's looking for is a man whose energy never contradicts him. Let's talk about why insecurity is the one thing that fails this test every single time. When a woman is drawn to an older man, she's drawn to a specific feeling. The feeling of being around someone who is already whole. Someone who doesn't need her approval to feel good about himself. Someone who isn't looking to her to fill something that's missing inside him. So when the question comes and he gets defensive or rushes to reassure her or suddenly starts working hard to impress her, something breaks. Because that behavior is the opposite of what drew her in. Insecurity doesn't just fail the test, it erases the attraction almost immediately. Because she realizes the stability she felt wasn't real, it was just the surface of someone who still needs external validation to feel okay. And that's not what she came looking for. That's exactly what she was trying to leave behind. Let's talk about why confidence is always the real answer underneath both questions. Not arrogance, not performance, not the kind of confidence that needs an audience to exist. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't announce itself, but is impossible to miss once you're around it. When she asks either of those questions, she's not looking for the cleverest response. She's not grading his vocabulary or his logic. She's feeling for something specific. A man who knows who he is and doesn't need the conversation to go a certain way in order to stay grounded in that. That kind of confidence doesn't come from success or status. It comes from a man who has done enough internal work to stop needing outside confirmation of his own worth. She can feel the difference instantly. Performed confidence has a slight desperation underneath it. Real confidence just sits still. And that stillness is exactly what she was looking for when she found him. Let's talk about what actually happens when he passes both questions and why it changes everything. Something shifts in her when a man handles those moments with calm honesty and quiet confidence. It's not dramatic. It doesn't happen with fireworks. It's more like something she was holding releases. Like she can finally stop wondering and just be present. Before he passed the test, there was still a part of her watching, still evaluating, still keeping one foot slightly back just in case. That's not coldness, that's just how people protect themselves before trust is confirmed. But when he handles those questions the right way, that watching stops. She stops managing her feelings and starts actually feeling them. The connection that follows is different from anything built on surface-level attraction. It's built on something she verified herself, something she tested and found to be real. And that kind of foundation is what makes her want to stay. Let's bring everything together and talk about what this whole conversation was really pointing at. We started by talking about maturity and why that's what a woman is actually drawn to when she's drawn to an older man. Not age, not appearance, but the feeling of being around someone who is settled in himself. Someone who has done the work. Then we talked about why she tests. Not because she's playing games, but because she's been careful for good reason. And how those two questions she asks are really just her way of checking whether what she sensed from the beginning is actually real. We talked about how the energy behind his answer matters more than the words. How insecurity destroys the very thing that attracted her. How real confidence, the quiet kind, is the only thing that actually satisfies what she's looking for. And we talked about what happens when he gets it right, how something in her releases, how the connection deepens into something that doesn't need to be questioned anymore. Here's what I want you to take from all of this. If you're an older man and a woman is asking you these questions, she's not trying to corner you. She's trying to find out if you're the real thing. And the only way to show her that you are is to already be it. You cannot rehearse your way to passing these moments. You cannot strategy your way through them. The only preparation that actually works is the internal work you do long before she ever asks the question. Know who you are. Be honest about what you want. Stay calm when things feel uncomfortable. That's not a performance. That's just a man who has done enough living to finally be at peace with himself. And that man? She's been looking for him for a long time.